So my name is Belkis Raquel Paulino, but I prefer to go by Raquel. And in the classroom, I go by Miss Raquel in spaces where that's allowed. Today I'm here at the Glorious Hair Conference with GSU. I submitted a proposal to talk about project-based learning and how one of my students studied and compared two different cultures of hair practices. So traditional African braiding and Mexican religious braiding, where they're using ribbon braiding as a ceremony. And I was like super impressed that she did that kind of work. First, because she's a fragile student, she doesn't often come to school. Two, because I was trying to do the work for her by having her partner with a friend. And three, because the idea 100% came from her. So it was autonomy to the full capacity for her to show me what her critical thinking skills were. And I learned something. So anytime the teacher is curious about the work that the student is doing, I think that's always a win, because you can start becoming ignited again, and you're not always the one depleted as you're pouring in, but the student is also pouring back into you and reminding you why you do the education in the first place. So Dr. Panther from Mercer, she invited me to do this work, which was pretty similar. She's having me think about how I wanted to improve my practice, and she saw one of my assessments, and I had submitted my students' assessment about hair and like the midterm, and she said, oh, that's interesting, you know, there's a hair conference coming up. And so she modeled that autonomy and kind of celebrating my heritage and things that were important to me as a student, and I was able to, so we were like replicating that a few times over. And I think that when you do that, even the audience turned up, you know, like they were all excited and they had so many questions earlier in the conference when it felt like they were just receiving information versus sharing and giving information. Their engagement, their motivation was a little lower. And then once the conversation included them as a centerpiece and they were able to pull that information to empower themselves and to change their personal practices. Now this information is about something I'm gonna tool up and do, then the energy totally changed. How can I become a better instructor? How can I become a better me, version of me? This hair conference is not just about somebody else sharing their hair story, but me thinking critically about what is my hair story and how has that affected me, and how is this conference gonna change me in the future? And I think that that's huge for me as an educator, is making sure that students are able to think critically about the information they're given, and maybe them teaching me something.